9:07, 7 past 9. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. This is Jake and John on WLS 890, waiting for your calls.
In for Bruce and Dan, who are in for Don and Roma. And if you want the latest on Don, Rob Feeder in yesterday's Time Out Chicago had a story about how Don is doing after his surgery last Thursday. You can go to our website, WLSAM.com, and get information. And if you wish to send Don a get well message, we have a special email set up. It's getwelldon@gmail.com.
It's very nice to do.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
We want to be sure everybody knows what's happening.
And a nice story by Feeder, too.
Yeah.
And
tonight is Keeping Up with the Kardashians at 8 o'clock.
And I think Ninja Warrior will be on all the networks, because if a contestant slips up, they fall into the mud and everyone laughs. That's how we pick our presidents.
It's the debate tonight. The first of the three presidential debates starts at 8 o'clock. You can hear it right here on WLSAM.
And I think I might do that. I think I'll take your advice of yesterday and not watch it on TV, but listen to it, to hear actually the ideas and the thoughts, and not get involved in the
facial tics and smirks and all that.
And who's got but unless Obama starts going into his black preacher dialect, then I'm going to have to turn it on to see it.
This reminds me of a Super Bowl, in that there is so much buildup to the event.
All TV people doing this.
All the little angles here and there. Roe and Roper, they had this professor on who has gone back over the years and analyzed all the different debates, and he predicts a winner based on the number of eye blinks. It was very fascinating. He said in 92, first of all, he said the normal eye blinks in a minute is about 35 to 40.
Unless you're Jimmy Carter.
92, Ross Perot was 5.
5 blinks?
5 blinks per minute.
That's because he's a lizard.
Well, that was they said it's reptilian.
He is definitely a lizard. And he elected Bill Clinton.
And
let's not forget that.
And in 2008, John McCain was at 108 per minute.
Does that mean liar, or does that mean untrustworthy?
It means a lot of blinking. So he's going to be watching tonight, 2 different camera angles. He's going to have slow-mo, and he's going to be counting the blinks.
And the facial tics.
Yeah, and all that good stuff.
I like the smirks. There's nothing like a good smirk from a guy who's going to be the most powerful man in the universe.
You know what they should do? If I were running the debate, I would have both sides stipulate to a set of facts. 20 facts, 50 facts, whatever. So everybody kind of knows what they're debating about.
Nobody wants facts. What people want is...
But how do you know what
huckster? They want, like I wrote this morning, they want the reverse mortgage guy, the ShamWow guy. They want to be convinced that, forget the deficit, $16 trillion. Who cares? Let's buy some Snuggies.
Well, but see, there's no agreement on what the deficit is.
I
kid you not.
How about big? How about humongous?
But that's my problem. You're going to talk about this program, and you want to do this and that. How do you know what they're even saying is true?
If they're blinking.
No, and that's what I would have. I would have a set of facts they stipulate to. Here, for example, yesterday, Vice President Joe Biden.
Oh, God. Right. That was good.
Yesterday, he talked about how the middle class has been buried for the past 4 years, okay?
Nice.
So this morning, you have 2 different Obama campaign officials.
Mm-hmm.
They go on 2 different morning TV shows. One of them throws it all on George Bush.
It is Bush's fault.
The 8 years of George Bush. Okay?
I was late to work. It was Bush's fault.
The other one, who's the deputy campaign manager, goes on a different morning show and says, we are not blaming our predecessor by any means. Okay, one of them is lying.
It doesn't matter. It goes to the Jake Hartford thing of it doesn't. I guess it doesn't matter because whatever Obama's people say or do, it's the video. It's not terrorism. Whatever.
But that's the same team.
Yeah.
One says this. One says the other. One says that's the sun. The other one says, no, that's the moon.
The difference is you don't have the front page of the New York Times saying they two different competing views coming out of the same mouth. You don't have that kind of rigidity.
You know what bothers me most of all? How heartless Mitt Romney is.
You mean because he gave the lady cancer? And killed her?
No. Worse than that.
Because he drove with his dog on the roof?
Worse than that.
Because he made money for people and himself and saved companies?
Worse than that.
What?
You want to talk about heartless. He scheduled the debate for tonight, signed off on it.
Right.
Tonight is the 20th wedding anniversary of Barack and Michelle Obama. And instead of going out somewhere nice and romantic for an anniversary, Mitt Romney shows he's anti-marriage by having the debate to interfere with their anniversary.
Don't they like to come to some fancy whenever they do come to Chicago, which is like once a year? Don't they like to go to some fancy restaurant that no one can afford, like Spazia or something, whatever they call it?
Some people could afford it because it's still open.
It's open, but
591-8900 is the phone number. Let's take some calls, John. Carol in Lansing. Good morning, Carol.
Good morning, guys. It's nice to talk to you. I just wanted to say that the best TV show on the air is Supernatural. It has its eighth series. Eighth year is the premiere tonight. And so if you don't want to watch the debates, that's the show you should watch.
Is it about teenage vampires? Because I will not watch teenage vampire shows.
No, it's not about teenage vampires. It's strictly horror. Really bad horror. Angels.
Kind of like The Economy.
Absolutely. Angels and demons walk the earth.
And one of the demons keeps printing money that we don't have, right?
I don't think they have a demon named Obama, but they do have a lot of
I was thinking Bernanke, but anyway. Yeah, okay.
So if you're looking for something other than watching the debate and you think, well, I might fish around and see what's on an alternate station, then watch Supernatural.
Carol, have you made up your mind who you're going to vote for?
I was raised by parents who grew up in Idaho. Does that tell you?
So you're going to vote for the Posse Comitatus or what?
She's going to vote for a potato.
Mr. Potato Head.
Thank you, Carol.
Okay, thank you, guys. I enjoy you very much.
Thanks, Carol.
See,
yeah, what else is
there's
on?
A definitive answer.
You're going to vote. You're going to watch. You wanted to watch. What did you want? Yes, tell me yesterday. Some show about towing and string bikinis. That would be good. What's that show? Miami Tow.
That's South Beach Tow. That's John Kass. I'm Jake Hartford. In for Bruce and Dan. Now it's 9:15. Time for a check of traffic right here in 89 WLS.
89 WLS. Traffic and weather first on the 5.
At 9:15, I'm David Stewart. A lot of red on the traffic map right now on the Edens. Inbound and outbound, it's about a 30-minute trip in either direction. The Kennedy on the inbound side, an hour and 2 minutes from O'Hare to downtown. Stop and go from River Road all the way in. Kennedy outbound, it's still a 50-minute trip, actually an hour and 10 minutes. Hour and 10 minutes to O'Hare, 50 minutes just to get to the junction. It's stop and go all the way from the Circle to Harlem Avenue. That includes the express lanes as well. The Eisenhower, the inbound side, stop and go Manheim to Pulaski. Outbound Ike, stop and go Pulaski to First Avenue. The Stevenson, the inbound side, the worst section, Ashland Avenue to the Dan Ryan. It's an hour and 5 minutes from 355 to Lakeshore Drive. Outbound down the Stevenson, it's a stop and go from Pulaski to Cicero. Stevenson outbound also slow from First Avenue to LaGrange. That's because of an accident blocking the left lane. Dan Ryan inbound stop and go from the Circle, from the Skyway to the Chicago, the Circle interchange there. 57 inbound from 127th up to the Dan Ryan is stop and go. Bishop Ford stop and go. Dalton to the Dan Ryan. Lakeshore Drive stop and go southbound from Hollywood to Fullerton. 89 WLS Weather Channel forecast. Some drizzle this morning, passing showers later throughout the day, a high of 65. Cloudy, a few showers overnight, down to 54. Sunshine early tomorrow, then turning cloudy with showers and a high of 75 tomorrow. Right now, it's 55 degrees at O'Hare and 55 degrees at the lakefront. Our next report's at 9:25 on 89 WLS.
9:16, Jake Hartford, John Kass back right here, taking your calls, 591-8900. At 9:37, we're going to have a couple guys from the Tribune, reporters who wrote a book on Blago, right?
Yeah, it's called Golden, How Rod Blagojevich Talked Himself Out of the Governor's Office and Into Prison by Jeff Cohen and John Chase, my colleagues. And the reason they're here is because tomorrow, one of the guys in the Blagojevich case, Bill Cellini, the boss of the Republican Party, is going to be sentenced to prison, which is an amazing feat. So they should be interesting.
And also in the second hour, we're going to have Cindy Sheehan and ask where she's protesting nowadays.
Where's she been, Cindy?
Jim in Eagle, Colorado. Good morning, Jim. Welcome to 89 WLS.
How you doing?
What's on your mind?
Hey, I was just wondering, you talking about all the blinking and stuff. What did it mean the year that George H. Bush looked at his watch and was bored? Does that mean that had any effect?
I think he wanted to be sure he still had his watch. Somebody didn't take it.
Yeah, I was just wondering about that.
It was probably just for time to make sure he knows how much time is left.
I thought he was bored or something. That's what Time magazine said.
Well, that could
No,
be, it could be that too.
The old man ran the CIA, so everything's by the minute to him. Everything's by the second.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Let's go out to Plainfield. Greg, hey, you're on 89 WLS, Greg.
Hey, good morning, guys. I really enjoy listening to you guys. Far be it from me to give any political advice to Mitt Romney, but I don't. It's pretty real simple, in my opinion. And other people have talked about it. Nothing else should come out of his mouth other than the economy. And I think he really, really needs to appeal to the blue collar, the workforce out there, the trades, even organized labor, because these are the folks that have been suffering the most under Obama. And I got brothers in the trades. I used to work for a living before I became a cop, and I'm a union police officer. But I argue with them all the time. My brothers, how could in the last 4 years you've been starving? How could you vote for this guy again? And,
what do they say?
The Republicans they all want to break the organized labor. I said, you're out of your minds. I said, the organized labor is only as strong as its membership. Mitt Romney, the last thing he's, in my opinion, or any Republican, the first thing they want to do is break organized labor. It's insane, and he needs to appeal to these guys. If you want to put food back on the table, I'm the man.
You know, Greg, you talk about the Democrats and organized labor. There was a story the other day in the Chicago Sun-Times about one of the Jackson sons, not Jesse Jr., the congressman, but the one who has the beer distributorship. And buried in the bottom of the story was the fact that in rehabbing their building to expand their business for their beer distributorship, they were using non-union labor.
Yeah, I know. They're hypocrites. And that's what makes me vomit when I listen to some of these people.
That's why this bud's for you, from the King of Beers himself.
Well, I'm appealing to my fellow organizers. You gotta pull your heads out of your rear ends. This is insane. 4 years of starving. Wake up, smell the coffee, and we got to go a different direction. We have to.
Thank you, Greg.
We'll see what he's going to do, but you don't want him to pander too much. You don't want him to show up in like a Sox T-shirt, sleeveless.
No, and
like
no.
like his Obama, the 2007 thing where he's doing the accent. It's pandering. That doesn't work.
But Greg is right. The housing market is terrible.
Oh my God!
It's depressed.
Construction.
And if you can get it back going again,
guys will work.
Then guys will be working.
The guys will work. Their kids will be. They'll have something in the.
And it isn't just building new homes. It is doing remodeling.
Right.
They can do that if people had money in their pockets. But then you read the other day I read about if Obama gets in, that a bunch of these congressmen have this wish list, and one of the things they're coming back with is cap and trade, which is just going to take a lot of money out of people's pockets.
Just put the men and women back to work.
9:21, back after this.
89 WLS. When you want to know what the candidates are saying, turn to your Common Sense election headquarters, 89 WLS.
9:28, Jake Hartford, John Kass in for Bruce and Dan.
Yeah. You want to take a call about this debate?
Real quick, Howie and Hudson. Good morning, Howie.
Good morning. Hey, I tell all my liberal friends this scenario. Let's say you own a business that's struggling. Your great aunt dies, leaves you a pile of cash, and you're going to use it to hire a consultant. Are you going to hire Barack Obama or Mitt Romney to turn your business around? And 100% of my friends, liberal or not, say Mitt Romney.
But government is not a business. The government is about helping people.
Exactly. They would rather see Barack Obama on Dancing with the Stars, and so they're going to vote for him.
Right.
Did they buy ShamWows? Did they buy a lot of ShamWows, your friends? Like I did? I got talked into it.
Sure, sure. Sure, yeah, but if it comes down to who's the smartest guy with money that can turn something around, that you have some skin in the game, they're all about Mitt Romney, but they don't see themselves as having any skin in the game because the deficit means nothing. The budget means, nothing means anything to people anymore. It's not personal.
Thank you, Howie.
Yeah, wait till they're 25% unemployment and they're like Greece and Spain.
And they're selling their house for $300,000 less than it's worth, or used to be worth. It's 9:30. When we come back, two Trib reporters talking about Blago
and Cellini
right here on 89 WLS.
89 WLS is breaking news, comprehensive coverage, and revealing insight. Chicago's talk leader, 89 WLS.
9:37. I want to remind you to join 89 WLS and AARP on October 16th at the Union League Club of Chicago for 11th Congressional District candidate debate between Judy Biggert and Bill Foster, moderated by Bruce Wolf. So go to WSAM.com to reserve your seat. That's the 16th of October, 89 WS and AARP. Joining us right now, John, are two of your colleagues.
Two of my colleagues, Jeff Cohen and John Chase, and they've written this fascinating book, Golden. I would have called it freaking Golden. Golden, how Rod Blagojevich talked himself out of the governor's office and into prison. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
So, tell me about your book. I liked it. Fascinating. You've got a lot of tape in there. You have a lot of transcripts of what happened with Blagojevich.
Yeah, we were fortunate enough in the course of the reporting for this to get a hold of many of the tapes that were not made public, and certainly all the tapes that included the then governor. And we used them to sort of stitch together a full narrative of the whole story. We sort of wiped the slate clean on the entire Blagojevich story and started from scratch and tried to tell the full arc of the story from him growing up in Chicago and coming up through the political system here. Through all his campaigns, we have a lot of great political material.
Yeah, very fascinating. I could write about 7 columns out of it.
Excellent.
It's really good. No, there's good stuff
all
here.
through the investigation.
Especially if you are a student of politics, you put the names and the people together and the relationships, and it's really good.
Thank you. Thanks.
One thing that I noticed now that since debate's coming is let's see, where's the part? Am I missing it? The part where Blagojevich, Governor Blagojevich, is talking to somebody about how his wife, Patty, was going to have the real estate deal for Obama's house. You remember that part?
I remember that tape, and it was even listening to it at the time. The person he's talking to actually sort of hits the full slam of the brakes and says, "What did you say?"
Yeah, it's wait. Let's see. Here it is. I found it in the book. Blagojevich said he heard that Tony Rezko, the real estate fairy, who's in prison now, so we can't interview him here, said was not cooperating. He was getting sick and tired of everyone throwing Rezko back on him anyway. Quote, Rezko was actually almost had Patty do the real estate deal for Obama's house, Blagojevich said. How do you like that? I don't know. How do you like that, guys?
Yeah.
That was pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, that was one of the things that Rod was throwing a lot of stuff out there, and in these extra tapes, and that's a deal, as your listeners might remember, that between Rezko and Obama that did go through. Now, Patty was not the real estate agent on that deal, but Patty was doing a ton of real estate deals with Tony Rezko.
How vulnerable was Obama in all this? Because he had a good PR campaign where he said, I made a boneheaded play on I kind of knew Rezko, but in real terms, as this prosecution went on, how vulnerable was he?
I think in terms of what Blagojevich meant for him, probably not that vulnerable.
I don't mean criminally, I mean politically. Right?
Politically was another matter. But I think a lot of the energy for that he absorbed when the real estate deal was really in the news. And he was in the process of giving campaign donations from Rezko back or giving them to charity. He took a lot of the heat for it then, and I think it was sort of a slow trickle after that. Nothing really caught up to that first burst.
Yeah, I was, Tony Rezko was the earliest supporter, literally the earliest supporter of Barack Obama's, and there's no getting around that. Back when he was running for state senator, he was his first donor. For whatever reason, they blame it on the cosmos or whatever, or someone being smarter than the other, or just the fact that as governor, Blagojevich had more things he could maybe offer than even as a state senator or even as a senator. The thing with Rezko just sort of tied closer with Blagojevich at that point, and as Rezko got really hot under Blagojevich, Obama was smart and peeled off a little bit there, maybe just in the nick of time.
If it weren't for the tapes of trying to sell the Senate seat, would the feds have ever eventually indicted Blagojevich, because they were basically investigating him from the first day he was in office?
I think they would have, and that's one of the interesting things about what we found was
in the book Golden.
In the book Golden,
got to do that whole. Got to learn how to do that.
Got to get a bell.
John Kass, professional.
Right. Oh yeah, that's me.
So one of the things that we found was that this did start as a fundraising investigation. So even when they started the taping after Wyma cooperated, they were really looking for fundraising irregularities, to the point that when agents were involved in listening, they were minimizing conversations about the Senate seat because it wasn't what they were looking for. And it was the U.S. Attorney's Office that started to hear that material and would tell them, we need to let this tape run a little bit. And so the Senate seat was really an add-on. They were surprised and they only found it because they were recording it.
What was the quote that we heard from one of the prosecutors? They were listening to somebody who was trying to...
It was like a gun runner or something.
Comparing a gun runner, and then all of a sudden they heard that what they heard was a discussion of assassinating the president.
Yeah, by the way, he's trying to kill the president. Right.
Yeah. We're going to be back with Jeff Cohn and John Chase, who, by the way, are going to have a book signing tonight at 7 p.m. at the bookstall in Winnetka of the book Golden, which is about Blagojevich. And you think you know everything about Blagojevich there is to know. Well, you don't know 95% of it, because the rest of it is in the book here. Yeah, they have all the good stuff, and we're going to be back with them in a couple minutes. But first, it's 9:44. Back after this.
I've got this thing, and it's golden.
89 WLS brings you the first presidential debate tonight at 8 on your Common Sense election headquarters. 89 WLS.
9:50, the Bruce and Dan Show. They're in for Donna Roma, so it's John Kass and me, Jake Hartford, here for them. With us right now for a couple more minutes is Jeff Cohn, John Chase from the Chicago Tribune. They have a new book out called Golden, the inside story about Blagojevich and all the stuff he was doing, and a lot of federal tapes you never heard of before you'll be able to read. They have a book signing tonight, 7 p.m. at the bookstall in Winnetka.
And guys, tomorrow, Blagojevich is a Democrat. There was a lot of talk about the Democrats, but tomorrow one of the guys in this scheme is the shadow boss of the Republican Party, William Cellini, Big Bill. And Cellini is up for sentencing in Zegel's courtroom as an outgrowth of this investigation. Where do you put Cellini, and what do you think will happen?
Well, it should be an interesting day tomorrow. You're right. One of the key factors with Cellini is the fact that he never held any kind of public office, at least through the period of the charges in Blago.
He held governors in his hand.
Well, some would say he's definitely at the pinnacle of this group that sort of floated between party politics, and what they were really interested in was angles where they could make money off of different deals. So we sort of left him in context, and we included a lot of the board games period, just because we wanted people to get an understanding of what does it really mean when you say, well, they corrupted state boards. Well, how do you do that, and what's the result? And we wanted to leave the mechanics of that in place so people could get an understanding. And Cellini really is involved in some of that, and was convicted of one thing in particular.
You take a guy to lunch and you tell him how his future is going to be. I mean, there were several instances of that in the trial, where he took people from the pension boards to lunch and explained them the rules of the game, right?
Well, key for him was when Tom Rosenberg, a movie producer, had a problem at the TRS board. He knew to go to Cellini to try to figure out what was going on. Cellini knew to go to Rezko and Kelly to figure it out.
And they squeezed him.
Came back with this message to Rosenberg that he either needed to pony up one of these fake finder's fees or make a $1.5 million donation to Blagojevich. And
then in the discussion there on that tape between Stuart Levine, who loves gladiator movies, and Cellini, they started laughing. And that, I think, helped convict him.
It may have. Yeah, juries don't like that sort of energy from defendants where they think that nobody's listening and they're sort of gleeful in what they're doing.
No, that's exactly. I think that's exactly right. It's it was sort of like literally out of a movie. It's like blah ha ha ha.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
never sells.
No, it's not really good.
Cellini was a mini me though, but very powerful.
We have about 30 seconds left. Is everybody out of the clear now? Or all the investigations over? No one else is going to jail?
I think so. I think the sign that Patrick Fitzgerald left was a key sign that as far as the Blagojevich case,
So Jesse Jackson Jr. can go back to eating donuts and doesn't have to worry about it.
I don't think anything out of this case for him. I mean, there's always some chance of whatever out of left field, but it doesn't look like they've got.
That's the beauty of Chicago.
Right.
Always something down the road.
Right.
Hey, stay tuned. Right.
All right, thank you very much. Jeff Cohen, John Chase. The book is Golden. They're at, again, a book signing tonight at the Bookstall in Winnetka at 7 p.m. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
9:54, back after this.
89 WLS. News from across the country and around the world is moments away with an ABC News update on 89 WLS and WLSAM.com.
Wow, this was a quick hour. We have one more hour to go. 10:37, Cindy Sheehan.
Remember her? She would camp out in front of George Bush's house and scream about foreign policy, but what happened to the protesters?
We're going to ask her if she's been out in Hyde Park, camping out there.
On the south lawn of the Obama White House, also known as Resco's Roots.
Anyway, Jake Hartford, John Kass, when we come back, we're going to talk about the new Thompson Prison, which is really the old Thompson Prison. And I'm really going to take that $165 million and pay some bills.
And are we going to have terrorists having chicken for breakfast?